Number 37, in the name of Deputy Michael Moynihan, Minister to respond. Minister Kyne.
Good morning, Seán Kyne. This question from Deputy Moynihan relates to the airstrips in InishBofin and Cleggan. The Deputy will be aware that my department developed the two airstrips referred to with a view to commencing a scheduled air service between the island of InishBofin and the mainland. However, due to the changed economic circumstances, a decision was taken in 2013 to dispose of both airstrips and surrounding sites. I can inform the Deputy that the Office of Public Works has undertaken a feasibility study at the Cleggan site in relation to the possibility of developing a base there for a Coast Guard station. I am advised that the OPW intends to seek planning permission for a temporary Coast Guard station with the possibility of a permanent station being developed at a future date. And I know there is discussions between Galway County Council and the OPW with regard land for that and the ownership of land. And obviously this is a very important service, and only this week we've had tragedy in the Connemara region with the death at sea, and another incident today near Indrawn where the Coast Guard was called. So it's a very important service, and I would fully support the development of that Coast Guard station. Against this background, my department has no immediate plans to complete the development of the airstrips with a view to making them operational, nor are there any plans to provide funding for a regular service between Airport Connemara and the airstrips. However, I would like to inform the Deputy that I have asked my department to undertake a consultation process as soon as possible with regard to disposal of these two airstrips. Being new in the job, one of the issues that I asked the officials in the RIN with regard to these airstrips was to immediately engage with the local communities to see what their preferred wishes were in relation to this service. Obviously, the airstrips have been built. You, in your previous role, had a large part to do with that. I appreciate that, and there was local business people and the community involved as well. And obviously, the long-term aim has to be to develop an air service between Cleggan and InishBofin. As I said, I have no immediate plans. That's not to say that I don't believe it should be done. That's not to say that that I won't take up this issue in the very near future. But whilst awaiting that, I have asked my officials to start a consultation process quickly, not a prolonged, something quickly, to get the views of the local people in the area, whether it be business people, whether it be the island community, whether it be the community development body in InishBofin, or other interested people, to see what they believe should be done.
Minister.
Earlier on, in response to the first question, you said that the air service to the Aran Islands was very, very important, and you fully subscribe to that view. Along for the fact that InishBofin is a lot further from Galway, why wouldn't an air service to InishBofin be of equal benefit to the islanders in InishBofin? The second thing is, can you absolutely assure me here today that there is no question of disposing of this state infrastructure that was put there with the people's money to provide a vital service to an island? And the third question, would you be willing to examine the potential cost of providing a reasonable service based from Airport Connemara, where you can do it at a marginal cost because you have the planes and you have the airstrip, and flying to both Cleggan and to InishBofin, maybe starting off with 3 or 4 days a week initially. And of course this could be done at a marginal cost. In other words, you have all the infrastructure, the pilots are there, you know all the arguments, the Aran Islanders will explain them all to you. And therefore, could you tell me the answer to those 3 very specific questions? And I look forward to getting them from you.
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. In relation to the 3 questions, yes, you're right. The people in InishBofin have the same right as everywhere else, as do all the islands off the west coast, and obviously we have responsibility for all of those services in terms of provision of, for example, helipad and Tory, which has been done over the last number of years. A decision was made in relation to 2013 in relation to disposal of the airstrips. As I said, I wish to now seek the views of the communities impacted upon by that. Obviously any decision like that would have to be agreed by government. There are issues in relation to obviously disposal of state assets. There was a considerable investment in those projects, so that would have to be something that would be agreed. And as I said, I don't believe a decision should be made or government approval sought for that until such time as we hear back from the communities in relation to what they want. In relation to a reasonable service from Airport Connemara, again, that's something that could be looked at, and if that is part of the recommendations or part of the people's views in this consultation that I'm engaging in, certainly that can be examined. I certainly do feel that if there is a low-cost service that can be looked upon, that can be provided, that certainly that can be looked upon within the the constraints of budgets, and obviously you, together with the rest of the Dáil, will have a role in relation to the budgetary processes for those things.
Deputy.
Do I get to understand from you that you will look at immediately establishing what it would cost to provide, for example, a 3-day service a week to InishBofin Island, so that we can have a debate on real costs and a realistic debate? To just clarify again what you said, are you ruling out, or are you still holding open the possibility of selling this vital infrastructure to private interests, or are you ruling that out? You seem to me to be leaving the door open to the sale of these, which obviously I would oppose. And can I ask you, would you not agree that depopulation is a challenge in islands, and that the best way of keeping, and that puts huge cost on the state as the population drops, as you know, that the best way of keeping people on islands is to provide very, very efficient infrastructure services to the islands, which are provided at a minimal cost to the state compared to other transport services around the country.
Thank you. Very briefly, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. I agree in relation to the depopulation issues. Obviously, the better service for any part of rural Ireland, whether it be islands or anywhere else, the better at preventing depopulation. And as part of the programme for government as well, we hope to look at issues in relation to a rural resettlement scheme. And I certainly think, and I've touched on this with my officials, that the islands will be very much a place where that should be prioritised and implemented. In relation to the sale, as I said in my reply, a decision was taken in 2013 to dispose of both airstrips and surrounding sites. I've asked the RIN to initiate a discussion around this whole area with local people and local vested interests, and obviously that was the decision that was made in 2013, and that will have to be examined and would have to be agreed at Cabinet and at government level were it to be done. In relation to looking at costs, again, if that is something that comes out of the consultation process in relation to the possibility of a service, then I think that needs to be examined, as said, in the context of our budget discussions and budget preparation.
Thank you, Minister.